Who are we supposed to be when it's all ripped up for greed? We have no more stories. Them 100-year leases with them all the so-called glories. What about my brother at Bush? That want to work to teach the young how the world's supposed to be. And everything is not as glorious as portrayed. This was and always be Aboriginal land. That's a piece of poetry titled For the Young by Celestine Rowe. It rings a bell to a place in Burraga Land Water, Little Bay. Little Bay Beach, tiny beach that hidden not only from the cosmopolis Sydney city, but also safe from the large coastal swell. I chose this site because when I first came, I found the beach access was oppressed by no public access of golf area. I could not help but wonder, how stronger human more than human connection if uphill is open? Also, ecocultural really echoes here. Art from the past are communicates with us in the present. And after 6 hours immersion, this east-facing bay actually has more stories to tell. Here we go! First, contemporary art The Wrapped Coast by Celestine Rowe. It is an art that wrapped the whole Little Bay beach coast with 1 million square of fabric, 56 kilometers rope. This art caused reactions in sleepy Sydney 1969, because who would have wondered Little Bay coastline turned into art by covered in a woven fabric called charlon that usually used for agriculture. We can see the framework of values and worldviews that the artist Celestine Rowe have to consider relationship between the word of something and assessment of what word. The biophysical environment, especially beautiful landscapes and complex ecosystem, have intrinsic values like this Little Bay beach. It is supported by 17,000 manpower hours, hundreds of workers, professional mountain climbers, architecture and art students. All workers were paid except 11 who refused because they're happy to be part of this history. Sydneysiders came to watch and marvel. Coast remained wrapped for 10 weeks, then all material were removed and recycled. Second, always be a place for healing. Today people spend time in the beach to heal and to feel shooted. Yet, histories merged this location was the place for healing patients with infectious disease like leprosy and pox. Public needed a quarantine hospital and Little Bay provide this isolated but not too far from the city. It's called Sydney Little Bay Coast Hospital, known today as the Prince Henry Hospital Museum. Then, the big issue is coming. The hospital area repurposed as golf course and luxury coastal accommodations. No uphill activities or even a coastal walk can be done. People need to have more money and play golf to experience the scenic hill to connect more with Little Bay nature. Then there is an environmental activism called Save Little Bay. It has 3 million followers and likes. They have been making a coalition that rallied thousands of locals to stop massive overdevelopment to build 2,600 apartments in Little Bay that proposed by Maritime Property, which owned by Australian real estate billionaires. After years of advocacy and actions, last year in October 25, Maritime's fourth attempt was rejected by the Randwick City Council. That was a major win for Save Little Bay community and more than human world. We can use 3 frameworks to understand this. First, environmental activism. The Save Little Bay shows a specific direct action of opposition to current destructive practice as a collaborative, co-creating thriving eco-socio-cultural presents and futures. Second, framework of urban ecology that Maritime proposed to create more apartments, develop nature into built environment, and growing disconnection between city dwellers and nature. Third, framework of institution. In this term, the Randwick City Council and established law in the political and social. Many of their law involve consideration of environmental issues, and this time they did it right. Last, I want to portray the ecocultural and more than human relation in Little Bay. I observed that intergenerational human is enjoying their time here. Elderly love to fish from the rocks, snorkelers trying to meet the underwater world. Some prefer to stay dry in the sand with the seagulls that enjoying their bedtime together. The framework of childhood is also strong here. There are playgrounds, hidden handmade swing. Also, kids showed me their discovery of sea creatures. Such a privilege for them to be able to freely play. Hopefully, their early connection with nature will help them to be an ecocentric change maker in the future. To see human not on top of nature, but in a circle with other non-human creatures. In conclusion, Little Bay Beach, Burraga Land Water is such a special place with stories of ecocultural and environmental issues. Hopefully, we can be more ecocentric and connect with the modern human world. To dive into the heart of Kanyini, First Nation intrinsic values, caring for all being, the land, water that sustain us.